Velkommen og god morgen alle sammen. Speaking today about the only Viking to ever be reincarnated. Okay, there was a lot more than just one. They all believed in reincarnation if we go back far enough. But there's actually just one guy that we actually know was a real person, who he was in his previous life, and then who he turned out to be in his next life. And he's buried right there. We are here at the Gokstadhaugen burial mound, ship burial in Sandefjord, Norway, not too far away from my home. And this is where Olaf Geirstad-Alf is buried. Now, Olaf Geirstad-Alf, he was a smaller king in the early Viking age. And just before he died, he basically had a dream that he should be buried in this mound right here. Okay, to be honest, we're not 100% sure if it is him buried in this mound. It's between this one and one other that's in Agder, Norway, I believe, but they're at least fairly certain that this is the mound that he is buried in because he grew up in this area. He was a half-brother of Halfdan the Black, which was the father of the famous Harald Fairhair. And when Olaf Geirstad died, he instructed his people to build a mound for him, bury him under it, and then he was worshipped as an elf, or an Alf, which is why we call him Gjerstad-Alf. Now, later in the story, and this is the tale of Olaf Geirstad-Alf, by the way, Þáttr Ólafs Geirstaða Álfr, as they say in Old Norse. And in that story, a few hundred years later, about a little less than 200 years later, Olaf came to, I think it was a servant of a certain person in a dream. And what he did was tell them to basically dig up his burial mound, dig up his grave, and take out some of his belongings in it, his sword and his ring. They dig it up and give it to this newborn that was about to be born, who was about to be Olaf the Saint, or Olaf Haraldsson. So here we are at the top of the mound. It's massive. It's about 5-6 meters high. So you can see that this was a very big mound. It must have been very hard to build and very hard to dig into. So, as I was saying, Olaf, the first one, came to a servant. I forget the name of him, but I'll put all this names up here and also links below to where you can read more about it. So he came to a servant in a dream to give the son of the queen who was about to give birth to the new son. And that son was actually Olaf the Saint, Olaf Haraldsson, who we read so many stories about. One of the most famous kings of the Viking Age. I don't like him that much. He was quite a nasty king, but he was actually a great warrior, and they called him Olaf Digre because he was massive. That's what it was translated to. And one very famous part of this story, which we can learn a little bit about the spirituality, is when Olaf the Saint was walking by this area. He would have walked by right here somewhere with his men, and don't forget, they were Christian at this time. This was a little after the year 1000, and Olaf Geirstad-Alf would have been buried here in the very early 800s. So Olaf the Saint would have been walking by here somewhere with his men. His men, some of them still pagan, and they would have believed in reincarnation. They told Olaf that, oh, look, that's you buried in that mound. That's you in a past life. And then Olaf the Saint simply said, oh no, that's just old women's superstitions. We do not believe in reincarnation anymore. We are Christian men now. So there you go. That is just some special story, and it shows us a little bit about the beliefs and the history of the Norse people. And this is actually one of my favorite burial mounds in all the world. And I'm happy to show you guys this from right near my home. That's all I have to say for today. Vi ses nästa gång.